I'm currently packing for a cabin-to-cabin hike in Norway and packing the same gear that I took on massive, I'm wearing my massive shirt because I'm very excited to go to Norway, massive Saga and to Trollheimen last year. So this is, if you're thinking about doing any of those, this is potentially helpful. This is going to follow pretty much the order of the packing list on my website. And yeah, with that, I will get started. First category of stuff that you need to bring is the basics. I call it gear, but basically start maps and compass. Maps and compass. I actually don't have all the maps I need for this trip. I'm going to have to go to the DNT store and pick them up on my layover in Oslo. But I kind of think of maps and compass as really like a first aid kit. I rarely, if ever, actually use them. But they're very useful to have because the one or two times I've needed them, it has been like I really needed them. So those are great. One of the other things that you might consider taking is if you've been to Norway in the past and stopped by a DNT store, they have these things called plan leggings cart, like literally maps for planning. They're not detailed enough to actually show you the routes, but I like to take them in case I'm like, I wonder, could I go to this cabin or that cabin, or could I add a day or take a day away from my trip? If you don't have service to actually get online and look, these are super useful. So we'll put them in my bag. Duct tape, super useful because you never know what will actually happen on the trail. Next thing, dry bags. So I'll keep these out and pack with them in a little bit, but I made a very expensive error in one of my early hikes. This is huge. I just got this one and I thought it was much smaller than it is. I made a very expensive mistake of not putting my laptop in a dry bag on a hike. And so definitely recommend dry bags. So leave those out. And then finally, poles. So I am a big fan of hiking poles. I think they're just useful if you're going to be going any sort of long distance, especially up and downhill. These are particularly great. I got these in Lillehammer like 2 or 3 years ago for Massive and Saga, and found them like they make hiking 5 to 10% easier, which I feel like is normally not a big deal. Like it's not really worth it for a lot of day hikes. But when I was doing multi-day constant hiking, the extra 5 to 10% really did add up. And so I'm taking them this year. They're also really helpful if you have to do any river wading or snowfield crossing. It's currently July. I'm going to be going to Breiheimen, home of the glaciers, where there's a ton of snowmelt right now, lots of snowfields and lots of pretty high rivers. So definitely going to bring them. Okay. So next category of stuff I take is inner layers. So I'll divide up clothing. I have a lot of clothing with me. Basically, how I break it down is I take 2 pairs of shoes. One is a trail runner and one is an actual hiking boot. The reason for that is there are a number of trails where you can get away with trail runners, especially if the weather is dry. If you're going to the Hardangervidda, for example, you can definitely get away with trail runners. And I find that my feet are so much less tired after a day in these than a day in the big boots. That being said, if I am crossing Mur, if I am doing any sort of scratchy rocks, if it's rained a lot, I definitely want these. I made the smart move of actually making sure that I have tested both my hiking boots and my trail runners this time, as opposed to my last hike where I neglected to do that step and found out on day 2 that my hiking boots had a hole in them. I actually wear one set of my hiking clothing and my trail runners on board the plane when I go to Norway, because everything I fly with me, I actually end up carrying on my hike. If you are flying to Norway and don't want to do that, there's luggage storage in almost every airport, anywhere from $5 to $10 a day. I'm going to not pack these because I will be wearing them tomorrow. Moving on, next thing, socks. So I take 2 pairs of wool socks that are over the ankle, so comfortably over my tall hiking boots. Wool, I'm a big fan of wool. And then I actually also take a pair of these low socks. So I initially bought these thinking they'd be great hiking socks. They're way too short for that. They let dirt in, they rub, all those things. I actually found though on my last trip in cabins, these are super useful. Most cabins don't let you wear shoes inside. And so I found these to be a really good solution to that. They are also the socks I wear with my trail runners when I'm out in the city or traveling or things like that. Whoop. Next up, shirts. So 2 shirts. My next thing, I have been obsessed with these Smartwool 3/4 zips. The quality has sadly gone downhill recently, but I take these and find the sort of merino wool sweaters to be just great. They look classy enough that I can wear them on the plane or in the lounge at the airport and not look like I've just been hiking for 4 weeks. But they're also warm and comfy enough that I actually hike in them most days. I'll leave that out because I'm going to use that. I'm leaving some things out of my bag because I will actually use them on the plane. Again, minimizing the amount of stuff I have to take. 1 pair of hiking shorts. These are also my sleep shorts. Realistically, if you are going to Norway, you are probably going to be hiking in long pants and not shorts. But I like to sleep in shorts. A lot of the Norwegians in the cabins actually sleep in merino wool long underwear. I don't understand it. I also like shorts because I can wear them on the plane, in the airport, city tourism, all those things. And then the important underwear. What I do with my clothes is I essentially separate them into 2 categories, into what I'm going to be wearing on the trail and what I'm going to be wearing in the cabin. And I actually dry bag my cabin clothes just to make it easier to find them when I'm going in and out of the cabin. So when I get there, I don't have to dig through my bag. I know that the pink bag has all of my cabin clothes in it. So I actually use dry bags like a lot of people use packing cubes. I find it super helpful because A, I'm not worried about my stuff getting wet, and B, I go, oh, it's the pink one. As you see, I did a pretty terrible job. This dry bag would be completely ineffective against rain, but hey. Next, outer layers for hiking, clothing-wise. First thing, hiking pants. I will end up wearing these pretty much every day on the hike because as much as I would love to hike in shorts, it's going to be cold and it's going to rain. So next up, rain jacket and rain pants. It has taken me a very long time to find a pair of rain pants I don't hate. This is a pair that I don't hate. These are from REI Co-op. And they come in petite, so they don't actually drag on the ground while I'm hiking, which is useful. Then next up, so I spent probably 4 years hunting for my dream raincoat. This is my dream raincoat. Actually, I might just wear this. It's a little tight. I don't care. It's my dream raincoat. So one of the things you can do is you can choose to one of the things that you can do is you can actually take a windbreaker and a raincoat if you don't like hiking in your raincoat. And I've done that in the past. This raincoat I am obsessed with and actually find it more comfortable to hike in than a lot of windbreakers. So won't take a windbreaker on this trip. If you don't love your raincoat, I'd recommend a windbreaker. There are a lot of mornings that are like a little misty, a little windy. And as you're getting started hiking, you don't want the big heavy raincoat, but you also kind of need some wind and rain protection. Whatever, I'm gonna leave the rain jacket on. I love this rain jacket. Next things are hat and gloves. These seem unnecessary for summer hiking. I've had enough times where the weather has been unexpectedly cold that I bring them now. This is a wool hat. It is embarrassingly from the Innsbruck tourism office, but it's a really nice hat. So I take it anyway. And I take a pair of gloves. Again, haven't needed them too many times. There have been a couple times, particularly on Massive, where it was just cold. Your mileage may vary. I've had trips in Trollheim and I don't think I ever took my hat or gloves out of my bag. In Massive, I hated myself for bringing glove liners that instead of real gloves. You do you. Let's put all this in the bag and let's keep wearing my rain jacket because I love it. So next round of stuff is the stuff that is more Norway specific and less sort of just general hiking. So key things here. First, DNT key. So this is available either online at the DNT store, dntbutiken.no, or you can pick it up from any DNT office or serviced cabin in Norway. This unlocks the majority of the cabins. So it is like literally a life or death thing to have with you. And so I actually don't pack it with the rest of my cabin supplies. I actually put it next to my passport in a plastic bag in an easy to reach part of my backpack. So DNT key, very key to have. I did not mean that to be such a terrible pun. Next things for the cabin. For the service cabins actually have showers, and it's pretty popular in Norway to actually jump into streams and rivers and go bathing. So I got I think from Sea to Summit, this towel, which is, as you can tell, full-sized. It's a full-size towel. It only weighs a few ounces, and it compresses down into this little bag. So super useful for the showers, for changing behind, kind of well worth the wait. Next up for the cabin, Sengatoy, which I am pronouncing incorrectly, but roughly translates to sheet set or sheet thing. But basically, this is a set of sheets that is fitted for the beds in the cabins. You'll need to have either a sleep liner or a set of these sheets with you to use the beds in the cabins. Most cabins don't allow sleeping bags because they found out that people don't wash their sleeping bags. And they had what they euphemistically refer to as hygiene issues. Make sure to pick up either a sheet set or a sleeping liner before you go. I love actually having the full set. It's a lot bigger. There are people who have bed liners that like fit in something like this. I have my whole sheet set. I like it because it's literally a sheet set. Like I get a bottom sheet and I have my blanket and my pillow to cuddle up with. And I just find that for me is worth the extra volume and the extra weight. And then finally, cabin shoes. So I'm going to actually try on this trip a pair of flip-flops. In the past, I've taken Allbirds as my cabin shoes and also used them as my city tourism shoes. These are super light because I have worn them down. I've had these for 12 years and they're about to die, or about to fall apart. So this is for walking around the cabin. It's for if you're at a self-service cabin and you've got to run out to the outdoor restroom or to the Sickering Suta, which is the second building, to get supplies. You want a pair of shoes that doesn't require you sitting down and lacing them up and is heavy at the end of the day. So a lot of people take flip-flops or Crocs with them. So then for packing, tactically, I recommend putting your towel and your sheet set into the same bag as your cabin clothes so that, again, when you get to the cabin, it's sort of an easy, I find everything. It fits. Kind of fits. Okay. Wow, you could tell it is like 30 degrees hotter in this room than it was when I did my ski unpacking, and I hate it. Anyway, look at Svalbard, nice and cool Svalbard. Anyway, so moving on, next thing, two things here. For food and drink, I actually recommend bringing a thermos in addition to a water bottle. The thermos is for warm drinks in the morning. So at service cabins, they will fill up your thermos with hot water, tea, or coffee in the mornings, which is awesome. Most of the hikes that you're actually going to be doing in Norway, it's not going to be warm out. And so having the coffee or tea for a little bit of a coffee or tea break is awesome. Candy is the other thing. I'm obsessed with licorice boats, which are like just little bits of, really they're just like melted sugar stuck together and they're squishy. But I would recommend bringing some. So a lot of the self-service cabins don't have candy. And then for sandwiches, I actually just take extra plastic bags. I tried to be an overachiever. I got a silicone lunchbox, used it. It was way too bulky. I found that plastic bags worked better for me. And then moving on from food, next sort of thing to be aware of is the tech. So pretty simply, I bring my laptop because obviously I write about the hikes while I'm on them. And I use a running watch rather than my phone for actually tracking where I am during the day. It saves a lot of phone battery. Great. I take chargers in a little bag just to make them easier to find. The key things here to be aware of with chargers, you will need a charger with a European plug, I guess, which is obvious, but like I almost forget it lots of times, so I'm calling it out here. I actually just bought a plug end and just hook it up to a regular USB-C cable to charge my phone and my laptop. However, one thing, when you are in a lot of self-service cabins or unserviced cabins, they might have power, but it's very limited. It's mostly used to run lights. So make sure to bring a USB to USB-C charger or USB to whatever your phone needs charger if you're going to be staying in the self-service or unserviced cabins. There's also pretty limited power. So, be sparing with electronics. There are not a lot of places to charge. There are some people I've seen who actually take solar panels and charge their devices underway. Spare battery pack is really useful. A lot of the cabins actually turn off their power overnight. Basically, their electric was done at a time when people weren't really charging devices overnight. And so to minimize fire risk, they actually shut off the electricity. So bring a battery pack. Also helpful if you're ever underway. There are some cabins that still don't have electricity. Most of them do, at least to run a light or two, but you could easily run into some that don't. Oh, I guess one thing worth calling out here, I don't pack in InReach. I find that I generally have fairly good phone service. If I were doing really long or intensive backcountry hikes, so going off the D&T trails, or places where I have to navigate with map and compass, then I would actually bring one. Winter hiking, or winter skiing, I will definitely consider bringing one next time I go. My dad can yell at me for this decision later. Okay, so the rest of the gear. Okay, so documents and credit cards. Pretty much simply passport. You don't need cash in Norway. Almost everything is credit card payment. You will have to have a physical credit card though, because Apple Pay, Google Pay et al. Won't work at a lot of the cabins, the service cabins that don't have reliable phone service. So next thing, sunglasses. As you can tell, mine are extremely beaten up. I actually rarely use them on the hike because it is rarely sunny for long enough that I need them. Welcome to Norway. Glasses. This case is not a good case because it is very heavy, but I put them in a Ray-Ban case the other year and smushed my glasses and they don't fit right anymore. So now I use the real case. Next, sort of random things. I usually take a book. I have 2 books. Books are heavy. I'm not going to take both probably, but there's actually quite a bit of downtime in the cabins, especially when you're solo hiking. This is Bill Bryson's A Short History of Nearly Everything. So I might take this one so that I can seem really smart to all my friends when I come back. 2 miscellaneous things, headlamp and sleep mask. Do you really need both? No. Basically, the challenge with Norway is that in the summers, it never gets dark. And so it's actually really hard to sleep in the cabins, especially when you first get there and you're jet lagged. And so the sleep mask can be really helpful. There are generally pretty good curtains in all of the rooms, but again, sometimes not. The headlamp, I obviously took the skiing and it was super useful. I'm going to take it mostly actually for the serviced cabins. So the service cabins usually turn the lights and the power out at night. It's useful to have the headlamp really for more inside the cabins than hiking. This is your bathroom shovel. Nature calls in the euphemistic way, and poop shovel. Last 2 things, toiletries and first aid kit. And then toiletries. So I exploded a thing of shampoo in my other toiletry bag, and this one is not quite big enough for my toiletries. The one toiletry I will call out that you should definitely get in the US, if you are flying from the US, sunscreen. So Norwegians view sunscreen as a luxury good, probably because they don't get enough sun in their daily lives. Oh no, did something explode? No, something already exploded again. So I usually bring sunscreen with me. It's also hard to find high SPF sunscreen. So if you're someone who likes over 25, definitely bring it with you. This is some 70 because that's what I had in 3 ounces or under. One of the hacks that I use is I actually have a plastic bag that I put inside my toiletry bag, holding all my liquids. So this way at airport security, I can just yank out this bag as a... So that is actually everything. I'm gonna go ahead and put it all into my bag, X what I'm gonna be wearing on the plane and for the first day hiking. So you can get a sense of how much stuff it actually is. So having gone through all of that, this is about what my backpack looks like. So if I had to guess, it's probably 15 to 20 pounds. It'll be a little bit heavier when I'm actually hiking because I'll have water and food with me. But on the counter, I might be wearing the heavy hiking boots that are in here. So, wow, this actually feels great. So yeah, that's basically my hiking list of everything to bring. So the ways I think to modify the packing list is if you're going city tourism afterwards and you want to throw in, like, I often take a cute jumpsuit or cute dress that I can wear on the plane and in the city. Oh, I guess it's worth calling out what is not on my packing list, but is on DNT's packing list. So DNT recommends you bring gaiters. I actually have had terrible luck with them. I've never been able to successfully use them. And so I just bring high hiking boots and rain pants, and that seems to work pretty well for me. Basically, that's all the gear that I brought and all that I found that I needed. If you have any questions, feel free to message me on the blog, comment on YouTube, message me on Instagram. I will try to get back to you unless I'm out hiking, which sometimes happens. But yeah, I found that this sort of gear worked super well for Massive, worked super well for Trollheimen. We're going to see how it holds up to Breheimen in the Topfjordfjell this year. But yes, I will be back with a full after the hike gear report as well. And yeah, if you have any questions, shoot me a message. Womp.